Christy's mom made a small noise that sounded like "Amen," and dabbed at the corner of her eye with her fingertip. Mrs. Bruder hadn't said much since Jessica and I got there. She sat by Christy's side, alternately patting Christy's knee and nodding her head in agreement to things Christy said, a trembling and not very convincing smile holding up her mouth the whole time. She nodded again when Christy's dad mentioned that he only prayed for a daughter who would be happy and have a long life, not one who could play softball. "Do you," I blurted but faltered, unsure of what I wanted to ask her. "Do you blame me?" I wanted to ask. "Do you hate me even more now? Do you wish Nick had killed me? Do you have nightmares with me in them?" My mouth opened and closed. I swallowed. Mr. Bruder must have sensed my discomfort because he leaned forward with his elbows on his knees and looked me straight in the eye. His hands dangled between his legs. "We've learned a lot about forgiveness since this happened," he said. "We have no interest in seeing anyone else suffer over this tragedy. Not anyone." Christy stared at her hands in her lap. Jessica shifted toward me slightly. "There are heroes who died for their school," Mr. Bruder said softly, "and there are heroes who almost died for their school. And there are heroes who stopped the shooting, who called 911 when Christy went down, who held her stomach to stop the bleeding. Heroes who lost people they loved. We appreciate all of the heroes of Garvin High." Jessica reached over and touched the back of my arm. I felt surrounded. God, how did this happen? Felt proud. When I got home, totally exhausted, Mom and Mel were sitting on the couch watching TV. "It's getting late," Mom said, wrapped in her cocoon of Mel. Her feet were pulled up to the side. She looked comfy in a way I'd never seen before, not even when Dad was her cocoon. "I was getting worried about you." "Sorry," I said. "This project has to be done before graduation." "Did you get it finished?" Mel asked, and I found, to my surprise, that I didn't mind him asking. All in all, Mel was a pretty good guy, and he made Mom smile more, which, in my opinion, made him a pretty great guy. "Well, I got the research finished," I said. "I got all the interviews done anyway." He nodded in approval. "I saved dinner," Mom said. "It's in the oven." "No thanks," I said. "Jess and I ate something already." I walked over and stood behind the couch. "I think I'm just going to go to bed." I gave Mom a kiss on the cheek, a gesture I hadn't given her in years. She looked surprised. "Night, Mom," I said, walking toward the stairs. "Night, Mel." "Night," Mel called back loudly, drowning out Mom's voice. Chapter 43. I burst into my last session with Dr. Healer practically buzzing. "I think I'm starting to figure out who I am," I said, smiling wide as I dropped back onto the couch and popped open my Coke. "Who are you?" Dr. Healer asked, grinning widely. He flopped into his chair and draped one leg over the arm of the chair like always. "Yeah, I mean, I know this sounds stupid, but I think talking to all these people reminded me of who I really am." "And who are you? Who did you remember yourself to be?" "Well," I said. I stood and paced the room. For starters, I liked school. I really did. I liked being with my friends and hanging out and going to basketball games and stuff. I was smart and driven, you know. I wanted to go to college. Dr. Healer nodded, pressing his forefinger to his lips. "Good," he said. "I would agree with all those things." I stopped pacing and sat back on the couch, a knot of excited energy. And the hate list was real. I really was angry. It wasn't a show for Nick. I mean, I wasn't as angry as he was, you know. I didn't even realize how angry he was, but I was angry too. The bullying, the teasing, the name-calling, my parents, my life seemed so messed up and pointless, and I really was pissed about it. Maybe back then a part of me was suicidal, and I just didn't know it. "Possible," he said. "You had a good reason to be angry." I jumped up again. "Don't you see? I wasn't faking it, not entirely." I turned and looked out the window. Mist was settling down on the cars in the parking lot. "At least I wasn't a poser," I said, staring at the water beating on the hoods of the cars. "At least I wasn't that." "Yeah," he said. But can you do a killer back handspring? No, still can't do that. Really? I can. You cannot. You're such a liar. But I'm good at it, he said, and I'm proud of you, Val. I'm not lying about that. And we'd moved over to the chessboard like always. He beat me, like always. Chapter 44. I know you don't want me to get excited, said Mrs. Tate. A donut sat half-eaten on the desk in front of her. Her coffee cup steamed. It smelled good in Tate's office first thing in the morning. It smelled like waking up was supposed to smell, rich and bright and comforting. But I can't help it, you know. This is exciting news. It's not news, I said sleepily from the chair across from her desk. I'm just saying I want those catalogs now. For later. She nodded enthusiastically. Of course, for later. Absolutely. Who would blame you? Later's a good thing. How much later? I shrugged. I don't know. However long it takes. I need some time to think things over. But you're right. College was always part of my plans before, and I shouldn't just let go of who I am. Now that I knew who I wasn't, I was determined to remember who I was, who I would become. Mrs. Tate opened a file cabinet and pulled out several thick catalogs. I can't tell you, Valerie, how proud I am to hear that, she said, beaming. Here you go. Lots to choose from. You know you can call me if you ever have any questions or need help deciding. She handed the books to me and I leaned over to take them. They felt heavy in my palms. I liked the feeling of it. For once, the future seemed heavier than the past.